Yeah, like at the end of the day, also, I think in a lot of positions, we just don't have a lot of these players, like people like Pedro Porro, know he's going to start every game pretty much. Like there's no real competition. And that's all that is on Levy as far as I'm concerned.
I think
he's going out there buying kids, and we definitely need more right now players who's going to push some of these.
I just think it's a combination.
Are these not the same players from last season, though?
So go on, Dio.
Yeah,
sorry?
Are these not the same players from last season who in the first 10 games are blowing teams away? Like, let's be realistic. We're talking about them. We're talking about them like.
No, it's not, Dio. Don't be disingenuous.
No. When I said
When I said
are these not the same players, I'm saying like at least buying Timo Werner or whoever else you brought in, like
Romero, Van de Ven, Vicario.
The core team that you have in Tottenham, a lot of them played last season. I mean, Brian Solanke, you brought Solanke in this season.
Yeah, all of their
Son played last season. So my point is, you have these guys who did very well in the first 10 games last season, who held their own, and all of a sudden this season they're crap, and you want to blame the manager. This same manager got the best.
No, I am blaming the manager. This same
manager.
Can I be real? Let me tell you why I'm blaming the manager.
What you guys need? What you need is cleansing. You need a cleansing.
Is it possible?
Tottenham.
Is it possible that the first 10 games?
It's very loud, Dio. Please don't do that again.
Is it possible that the first 10 games of last season was the manager?
Apologies, headphone users.
Some of our up and coming talent have been absolutely disgraceful. Since Udogie got doggied by Minty Breath, he's not been the same. You know what I'm saying? These are up and coming players.
Sorry, guys. Who's Minty Breath?
Minte from Brighton.
Oh, Minty. Okay. Yeah, but the thing is this, right? It's a combination of things, though, guys. Let's be honest. It's a combination of things. There's been a number of games, for instance, the way when you were leading against City and then you become really hard to beat. If you'd have done that against Brighton, you'd have won the game, as an example. I look at the manager for that. I think there's an element of poor recruitment. Werner's a standout example. I think James Maddison is another standout example. It's a good game, every 5 matches, 6 matches, 7 matches, if that. And what you have is a lack of the right mentality at your football club, in the sense of that I just don't think there is a desire to go out and play at 100% and try and win every single match, because I don't think for the players anyway, there is no recourse, there is no punishment, there is no slap on the wrists for not winning in the same way that I think would happen at a Liverpool, the same way that I think goes on at Manchester City. Yes, City have had a bad run, but it's their first bad run in 8 years, right? So to this level. And I just think that there's standard issues, there's recruitment issues, and of course there are issues when it comes to Big Ange as well. The problem is, I think just any Spurs fan that thinks if we sack him and go and get Graham Potter, it's all going to be fixed, or whoever the manager is, right? Doesn't really matter who you think. Staffy, what you here to say, bro?
Listen, I only watched the first half of the game, and I just couldn't watch anymore because I knew it would be the same old Spurs, and I knew they'd probably lose, and we'd be back here again. So I was like, you know what? I'll just save myself that time, and I'll tune into the match reaction later on the terrace. And as I'm driving home, yes, that's exactly what happened. So I was listening to you guys on the way home. I'm just, as an outsider, I'm not gonna lie, it's extremely frustrating to listen to Spurs fans anymore. And I'm gonna direct this more at Deji, because Deji, during the summer, you told me
on an empty stomach. You're no better, mate.
Let me. Okay, I didn't even tell you why, and you're already trying to get defensive. Let me explain why. In the summer, you told me that I wouldn't be able to chat to you this season. Yet I'm sitting here with one of my worst seasons, statistically one of my worst seasons, and I'm 1 point behind you, Deji. You are the issue with this, Deji, because you keep telling me that. Just let me finish, and I'll let you respond. You keep telling me you're gonna do domination in the location. Right now, it's nothing more than humiliation in every location. Because every time Spurs go to any game where we think is going to be just a little bit difficult against them today, it's an away game, maybe the fans are going to be up for it, and the Spurs fans are not going to be up for it. This ends up happening. We are able to sit here and predict wins for you guys against Villa and City and United, but we're not able to predict wins against the likes of Ipswich and Bournemouth. And the fact that we're sitting here and we're talking about Ange, I've criticized Ange a lot. Jacob knows that. Sam knows that. People that stream with me a lot know that. And there's a lot of times where Jacob got upset with me when I criticize him. But today, I'm not going to criticize him because I'm gonna focus on the bigger picture. Okay, the way you guys come out and you speak about him, I'm not going to lie. Spurs fans deserve a Steve Cooper. They deserve a Russell Martin. They deserve one of these Brexit managers. Because if you think Ange, who last just 1 year ago, Deji, that's the first time I met you, you were sitting here talking to me about how you guys can win the league. Yet a year later, the same manager,
The next Ferguson.
The next Ferguson, a year later he's playing the same style of football, and it's looking this bad. And instead of focusing on the bigger issue, which is your club, because your club is not encouraging any managers to come in here and win major things, you guys want him sacked, and you're not going to replace him with anyone better. Because I promise you, there's no one out there in the market available for Spurs, especially. And this is not disrespect. You know, not a lot of big managers take the Spurs job. There is no one that you're going to replace that's going to come in and try to play this expensive style of football. The way this guy got you to believe that you can win a league falsely, because I thought you guys were good, but you were never good enough to win the league. For a year later, for you guys to think that he's the issue. Imagine this. If I'm Ange and I showed the Spurs ownership last season and the board, I'm sitting there in the summer, we're assessing what I did this season. So Ange, how did you do? You know what? For about half the season, I looked like a contender, but then my season capitulated. But at least I proved for about 3 months that I could have this team on top of the league and competing. How are you going to reward me with this? You give him Bergvall. You give him what's the young kid?
Archie Gray.
Your best Archie Gray, who I rate, but that's a future signing. Your best signing is Solanke, and I rate Solanke, and I've been on this platform before speaking about Solanke. But Solanke is the only signing I saw from you this summer where I'm looking at him like, okay, they're starting well. Maybe they're trying to give Ange some better now players, and that was it. You give him all these youngsters that I mentioned. You gave him Timo Werner. Every time you get one injury, you are literally playing players that are bang average. Dragusin, every time I see him filling in for Romero and Vendeven, the only thing that's good about him is he's good in the air. He's a bang average footballer. Too many players in your team are bang average. And because Ange wants to raise that level and wants to reach a little bit better, and he sits down and talks about how he wins in the second year, instead of everyone around him raising the level, you guys want to pick on him. I want him to leave, by the way, because I'm so sick of looking at the table and then I see Spurs in front of me. I don't want to see Spurs in front of me no more, because you don't deserve to be in front of me. You guys want to operate like a small club because it's implemented in your club, and you need to go back to that. If it wasn't for Levy getting you these financials in, you would have never been in these top 6 conversations anyways. So go ahead, please sack Ange, and I will be the first one here to laugh at you guys next year or whenever that happens. Hopefully it happens this season, when you go back to playing bang average football like we seen under Conte, like we seen under what's his name, Ryan Mason,
Mourinho.
like we seen under Jose Mourinho, and all these years before it, bro.
Santo.
Staffy. I wanted something, Deji.
Jerry, can you put me Dio and Staffy top?
By the way, I never said I wanted Ange to go.
Deji, do you remember this statement from you? Like, and you know me, I like to remind you, because Romero is better than Saliba. Udogie is the best left back in the league. Madison is better than Odegaard. Bissouma is the best DM in the league. This was last season. Just last season. Son still got it. Remember that statement? Son still got it. I'm literally quoting what you said, right? No, exactly. So these are the things. So this is what I'm asking you. This same players suddenly, now that they're not playing well, you want to blame the manager. Like, what are we saying here? They were never good enough in the beginning. They were never good enough.
Jacob said a lot of crazy shit last year, by the way, but they're lucky we just
at the end of
forgot
the day,
some of it. You know,
I didn't say anything crazy.
Laugh, you both. You know what the shit you were saying last
all
year.
I said was factual information. People don't
Jacob
like facts,
said
right?
Romero is the best center back in the world.
Statistically, he was top 3 in the league at least.
No, but
and he was the highest goal scorer in the league, so he was number 1 in that category. But you know, there's numbers you could look at that would suggest he was.
This is the thing with numbers, though, guys. Sorry, guys. This is the problem with numbers. And I remember having this conversation with Will. I hope Will as well, by the way. Is stats, they don't lie in the sense of what they're real, right? They're real, right? They say what they say. But what they never factor in is mentality, consistency, and longevity when you look at a short-term period. So you could look at Romero, say, in the first 3 months of last season and look at his stats and go, it's as good as anybody else in the world. But I don't think what people will then factor in is, and my club's been through this, because I've had a number of players, look at Rashford 2 seasons ago, the goals he was scoring. There was a 6-7 month period where only Haaland in the Prem was on par with him. But did the club have the structure and the culture? Therefore, did the players have the mentality to keep working hard enough to maintain that? Did they have the balls? Did they have the mentality to every day digging deep to keep delivering at that level? No. And that's the question. When you get a good period, it's a case of it's here to stay now, but is it? And this is what, again, it sounds like a dig, but is it when people go, I'm not worried about Spurs? I think Spurs will fall away because historically it's happened. And for me, that's more than Big Ange. That's more than the individual players you've got now. That is the club's approach, what the club finds to be the most. And again, your fans are part of that. 3 or 4 games into last season, the same fans booing Big Ange tonight, thinking that if he's sacked, we'll get a better manager and we'll win. We're singing, "We have our Tottenham back." And I thought at the time that chant was far too premature, far too early. You need to keep your foot on the metaphorically, no one do this for real, on the throat of your owners for the next 2 to 3 years until the money you're earning as a football club is represented on that football pitch and you're playing to that level. There is no,
I agree.
I'm happy with what Ineos are doing right now, but my foot's on their neck. And it's like, if we don't improve in January, if we don't improve in the summer, if we don't keep striving to get better, I don't care about the good things they've done. I won't care about the good things they've done recently in a year if we haven't progressed and moved forward, because winning on the football pitch, it should be all our football clubs care about in the grand scheme of things. And I think the Spurs fans have to look at that bigger picture and not just think Ange out and we're winning. Or, once we sell Son and we go and buy Bowen, I'm making the name up here, right? It's the first sort of wide attacker. Or we go and get Mohamed Kudus, right? We get rid of Son, get Kudus, we're back. It's never going to be as simple as that.
Terry, I want to snitch on Deji quickly. You know what Deji said? Deji said is going to turn him Ange in if Ange won the treble. That's what Deji said. Deji, I have video evidence, Deji. And I wouldn't have come here, but then see this Deji and Jacob, they keep chatting shit about my club. Jacob was in my comment section yesterday after Newcastle, and Deji told me that
the lads. Sorry,
I said they're gonna beat us at the White Hart Lane. No problem, Habibi. Today I'm here. Deji said the only way he'd be Ange if Spurs won the treble. Imagine Spurs and winning the treble.
I'm not saying Ange out, by the way, and I'm not flipping too far. And also, if you remember, Terry, last year when we were first after 10 games, we had like Dan and Harry going on about how we're going to win the league.
Where the hell are they, by the way?
I was one who always said,
no idea.
Listen, we don't win it. You don't win.
No idea. Me too.
The league after 10 games. We're going to go through periods where we're going to get injuries. We're going to do all that. I've always been a realistic supporter. I'm not saying Ange out. I think Ange has definitely brought some, good football. I think he's a good manager. But like I said, sometimes he frustrates me with some of the decisions that he makes. But I fully, and I've been on many shows before where I've said I fully hold Levy responsible. Completely, because for the last 20 odd seasons, it's been Levy and Enoch who've run this club, who have failed time after time after time with manager after manager after manager. Because even at Poch's peak, this is the people that ran the club who did not buy him for 600 odd days where we didn't have a single signing.
I agree. Which is why I go back to what I've said twice already on the show, and I'll repeat it. That's why the fans singing "We have our club back." That as soon as I heard that, it's like you're letting them.
Premature.
It's a bit like, imagine your relationship, right? It doesn't matter if you're male or female. It doesn't matter if your partner's male or female, but your partner cheats, okay? And you're like, you have that. Oh, you found out they've cheated, and you kick them out, and they're out the house for a week. And then you start seeing each other just at weekends. And then, you know what? Within like 2 or 3 months, they're back living in the house. You're off doing whatever you're doing again. And they've completely forgiven you far too quickly, far too easily. No new ground rules. The likelihood is if you do that, that person is going to go and cheat on you again. And that's exactly what certain owners of certain clubs will do. If you forgive them too quickly, you forgive them too easily, they will revert to type. Leopards, typically speaking, do not change their spots.